Okay, so when you think of ancient Egypt, what pops into your head? It's probably pyramids, right? Giant structures piercing a desert sky, golden tombs, stories written in sand. For literally thousands of years, that's the story we all thought we knew. But it turns out, one of Egypt's greatest secrets wasn't in the desert at all. It was hidden somewhere nobody ever thought to look.
What if a city of incredible wealth and power, the main gateway to the entire kingdom of the pharaohs, just vanished from the map? Not buried by sand, but swallowed whole by the sea. Well, that's not really a what if. It's exactly what happened. This is the amazing, true story of a city that was lost to the waves and found again. You see, for centuries, the name Thonis Heracleon was basically a ghost story. It was this fabled city mentioned in a few ancient texts as Egypt's main port, but with absolutely no physical proof it ever existed. Most historians and archaeologists just wrote it off as a myth, a legend lost to time. I mean, even the great Greek historian Herodotus wrote about it. He described a magnificent temple and its role as this grand gateway. But these were just words on a page. They fueled the legend, for sure, but they didn't provide a map or any clue as to where this city might actually be. It was tantalizing, but it was still just a story. And to make the whole mystery even more confusing, the city had a kind of identity crisis. The Egyptians called their great port city Thonis, but the Greeks, who traded and lived there, called it Heraklion. So for centuries, scholars actually thought these were two completely different places, which made the search even more complicated. That all changed, though, right at the turn of our own millennium. And this is where the hero of our modern story comes in, a French underwater archaeologist named Frank Gaudiot. Armed with those ancient texts and some high-tech equipment, he dedicated himself to scouring the seabed of Abu Qir Bay, totally convinced that the legend had to be real. And after years of searching, in the year 2000, his team made the discovery of a lifetime. It was absolutely monumental. Not only did they find the lost city, but they also solved that two-name mystery. Inscriptions they found on the site proved, without a doubt, that Thonis and Heracleon were the exact same place. Just like that, the myth became reality, a complete Egyptian metropolis, perfectly preserved and sealed away from the world under layers of silt and seawater, was finally about to reveal its secrets. This was a discovery that would literally begin to rewrite the history books. So what did they find down there? They found Egypt's main gateway to the Mediterranean world, a city that thrived for centuries, long before the famous city of Alexandria was ever even built. This wasn't just some little outpost. It was the vibrant, bustling heart of international trade for the entire kingdom. And the city itself was an engineering marvel. I mean, forget solid ground, Thonis Heracleon was basically an ancient Egyptian Venice. It was a city built on a complex network of canals where life revolved entirely around the water. This was the source of its immense wealth, but as it turned out, it was also its greatest weakness. The treasures they've brought up from the deep are just mind-boggling. We're talking colossal, 16-foot-tall statues of pharaohs and gods, hundreds of ancient anchors from ships all across the Mediterranean, dozens of preserved shipwrecks, and, of course, the ruins of the Grand Temple of Amun, where pharaohs came to legitimize their rule. It's a perfect snapshot of a thriving civilization. Now think about this for a second. For 1,200 years, this entire world lay untouched, an entire civilization, just frozen in time, waiting to be rediscovered. It's incredible. And the story is far from over. The exploration of this huge underwater landscape is still going on. In fact, very recently, archaeologists turned their attention to the neighboring underwater city of Canopus, another legendary site right there in the same bay, and they've already uncovered a whole new chapter. Among these brand new finds were a stunning court sphinx of the great pharaoh Ramses II and a remarkably lifelike marble statue of a Roman nobleman. These discoveries just confirm that this whole region was a hugely important religious and cultural hub, connecting Egypt to the wider world for centuries on end. So, all of this brings us to the biggest question of all, right? How could a city this powerful, this important, just vanish from the face of the earth? Well, the answer wasn't a single catastrophic event. It was something slower and way more brutal, an unstoppable chain reaction set in motion by the earth itself. It all started with powerful earthquakes that shook the region's unstable foundations. This, combined with slowly rising sea levels, led to a terrifying geological process called soil liquefaction. Basically, the dense, waterlogged clay that the city was built on essentially turned to liquid. The very ground that supported this amazing metropolis gave way, and the massive temples, the statues, the buildings, they all just collapsed and sank into the mud. And this wasn't some disaster movie where it all happened overnight. The process began around the 2nd century BC. Some residents actually clung on for centuries, but by the 8th century AD, the sea had finally claimed the last of it. Thonis Heraclean was gone, wiped off the map.
The rediscovery of these cities is about so much more than just treasure. It's fundamentally changing our entire understanding of ancient Egypt. And, well, it offers a pretty stark warning for our own time.
What we now understand is that ancient Egypt wasn't just some isolated desert kingdom obsessed with death and the afterlife. It was a vibrant, outward-looking maritime power, a key player that was deeply connected by trade and culture to the entire Mediterranean world. This changes everything.
And when you really boil it all down, the story of this great city is a simple but incredibly powerful one. It's a story of a civilization lost to the awesome power of nature, and specifically to rising seas.
And this is exactly why this ancient story matters so much right now. The modern Egyptian city of Alexandria, built near the very same spot, is facing a similar threat today from climate change. In the fate of Thonis Heraclean, the past is sending us a direct and very urgent message.
And get this, after decades of hard work, archaeologists estimate they've explored less than 5% of these sunken cities. 95% of this lost world is still down there, just waiting to be found. Which leaves us with a final, pretty sobering thought. If everything we've just talked about today came from just a tiny fraction of the site, what other secrets, what other treasures, and more importantly, what other warnings about our planet's future still lie buried in the deep? What they find next could rewrite our own future. The search has only just begun.